Welcome to a new episode of the Ambitious Sloth Podcast. I'm your host, Julian, and in this show, I will interview people about their ambitions, their meaning in life, and just like what motivates them to be extraordinary. My next guest is Luuk Hartsema, a UI and UX designer at Spindle, with interesting perspectives on leadership, altruism, and paying forward. In Groningen, he helped organizing events like the Startup Weekend and the Refresh Conference. And in my opinion, a very kind and generous guy. And I want to start with what struck me the most at the Startup Weekend. It was just so amazing to see how you put the human touch in the whole event, how you made it this whole event with so many different people emotional, and how you could reach so many different people with, I guess, your being. And
thanks. Yeah, that's really amazing to hear, I guess. Yeah.
And recently, I talked to another person that I met in the launch cafe, and I was saying, yeah, I'm going to Spindle for like the rooms, for the location, for the master thesis. And do you know Luuk? And he was like, of course, everybody knows Luuk. And so that was like another show of like that your I guess your human side, your emotional, how you connect with people is really spreading.
Yes.
And that was, I guess, also the biggest reason why I then was like, I need to talk to you more and need to get your perspective on things, your ambitions, and just want to see how you approach the world. And I think that could be super, super valuable for other people too, to see, okay, there's another way than what we just say, like just the transactional relationship with people that you, I guess, learn most of in maybe business sites or anywhere that there. So I would love to talk with you about those topics and see what your perspective is on that.
Cool. Well, it's a pleasure to have you at least. Like, it's nice to see you again.
Yeah, really curious. And yeah, well, the biggest part that stuck in my head from last time, I think I mentioned beforehand, was already like you live just such a way of altruism, of paying forward, of just really not expecting something in return. That's even how we got connected. And they're a bit, okay, why do you think this is like such a good way, and why do you think it's helping you actually even?
Yeah. Well, I need to make one remark, is that I don't live altruism because I also have to make a living, right? I can't do it for free. So, but the main principle that I really believe in is that if you pay it forward, then it will come back to you sooner or later. And like, how much of my effort does it take to just have a conversation with somebody who wants to learn? Fits really well with my purpose. I think it's really important also to help people develop and grow, and that really makes me happy as well if that is an opportunity that I can hand. And like, for example, you were introducing with the start of that you also were at Startup Weekend, and I remember like our first conversation also, and you really hadn't, well, you had heard about Startup Weekend before in Hong Kong, I believe, but never didn't have any intention at the time to participate in Startup Weekend, and we only spoke to each other on I believe a few days before that the event actually were taking place. And I was
the next day. It was starting on Friday. We started spoken Thursday.
Yeah, exactly. And this was really funny because I just said, why don't you participate if you're interested? I can get you a ticket still. So. And then they said, oh, why not? And he joined and went in open-minded, and that was really fun to see, and how this all happened, got to happen. And this is also a great example of like serendipity, and those moments are only created if you are going to give it forward. And now I'm here sitting with you, having a good time, talking about interesting things, and we can inspire a lot more people, I guess, to do so.
Yeah, and then also in the other talk where we had, you spoke about the story that I still have super vividly in my head of you wanting to work in South Africa on this grape farm. It was, right?
Oh yeah.
Will you share it again?
I have a huge love for South Africa. I did an internship in South Africa in 2009, yeah. And I returned in last January, in January, so 2019. And I always like sometimes you're really busy with work, right? So I always say like, oh, it would be so nice to just be in a wine field, pick some grapes, nice mountains, and the sun is shining, and by the end of the day we'll have a glass of wine. I totally idolized it. And this was a perfect picture basically. And so in January I was in South Africa, and I had to I traveled a bit on my own because I was staying with friends, and they were staying at home because they are a little bit more elderly. So I was on a trip on my own, and I went through this beautiful valley, and then by the end of the valley there was this wine field, and there were lots of people working in that wine field, and I thought to myself, well, I always say I want to be in a wine field, now is maybe the time to pick those grapes. And but initially I said, well, I don't know if I should do that now. So I drove on and kept on, like it was spinning, like I was thinking of it in my head. And then I thought, well, I have to turn the car around and basically go do this, because I always say it and I never do it. And now is an opportunity. I'm on my own. There's nobody I have to take into consideration here at this moment. So I turned around the car and drove into the wine farm. And I walked into the field, and the people were looking at me like, what the heck is this white guy coming to do here? Because most people, actually all the people in the field were of color. Not speaking English also very well. I think this area was mainly Afrikaans, and also some Xhosa. But
could you then understand them in Afrikaans?
Afrikaans is quite similar to Dutch. So,
right.
But for me to speak in Afrikaans was still a bit a mile too far.
Okay.
I can speak a little bit Afrikaans, but not sufficient enough for me to feel comfortable even doing so. Also, already a very scary thing, I think, because like most people know, South Africa isn't the safest country, and you hear these horror stories which, are not. There are horrific things, but it's not all of it. There's much more. There's also a lot of beautiful people and honest people, and there's a lot. You just have to be a bit considerate. But anyway, I went into a field, and these people were looking at me like, "What the heck is he coming to do here?" I was wearing a white shirt and just normal neat shoes, and not wearing any sun block or whatsoever. And they basically pointed towards a guy who was sitting on a tractor, and he said, "Oh, go talk to them." So I walked on and passed everybody who was still working in the wine field. And they were like, while they were working, looking at me like, "What is he coming to do here?" And I was like, well, this is my dream. I always say that I want to work on a wine farm, just to be empty, like have my mind empty. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, we don't have a scissor for you. And then there was this other guy, and he came, oh, I have a scissor. And so eventually I got to actually cut grapes. Obviously I asked like, how do I do this? Where do I have to cut the grapes, and which grapes to pick and which not? So I started. He said, "Well, just anything. Just start." And so I started, and it took 5 minutes before I cut my hand, and I had to go back to the chief and say, "Listen, I've cut my hand. Can I continue, or do you have a bandage?" So I got a bandage, and I could just continue if I want. And there were also a lot of women in the field, and obviously, like, it's hard work. And I thought, well, these huge heavy crates, they weigh a lot. So I thought, well, let's help those women a bit to hand those in with the tractor. And so I picked up, and then suddenly everybody started shouting, "Hey, where are you going with my crates?" And apparently, I only discovered then that they get paid per crate. And then obviously I was curious, what do you earn per crate? How many crates do you have to pick? So they had to collect 50 crates a day. And I only managed to do one in 45 minutes or so. And they only earned 20 euros, and like I calculated, 20 euro cents per crate.
Okay.
So that was really horrific, actually.
20 euro cents?
Yeah, per crate.
Wow.
So my idealistic picture of working on a wine farm wasn't idealistic at all, but I obviously got a really nice story in return. And I really loved the experience, and I'm really also proud of myself that I just did it, because I know that many people would not basically walk into that field. And I might have not done so in the past, but I learned that, doing things like this is really beneficial for, your own development. Just pursue things that you always were curious about.
Just really seeking out for the experience and not just like fantasizing about it. I guess.
Be curious, and like kids can be curious, right?
Yeah. So just do things.
Yeah. And that's like curiosity is something really to cherish, I think, and you should follow up on it. You should also stimulate it.
And I guess that is also really connected to what you said beforehand. When you have this curiosity and reach out for it or just do those experiences, you're also not really afraid of failing.
Yeah, it didn't.
Or did that?
It didn't even come into my mind. Like
I could fail at getting grapes.
What I did think was what if I did? I'm wondering if I didn't really. There was not a voice in my head saying like, "Oh, you have to be scared" or whatsoever. But obviously, it was an exciting thing to do. It's a good question. I don't know. Obviously you have things in your mind like what's the worst thing that can happen, and but I don't know. It didn't stop me.
And also, you didn't fear of like doing something wrong or failing at this thing, right?
No, true. No, there's no. No. Yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily see a relationship between having a feeling of failure and that moment. I just thought I can ask it, and if it's not a possibility, then I just continue. And maybe it's also a bit about expectation that like I didn't have any expectations.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I only had that idealistic expectation, but I didn't mind that that was not being met.
And do you think that is then a huge difference to like what's going on most of the time here when you like search for a job, when you do like other tasks?
Do a presentation. Yeah, presentations I find like I'm really that I find scary.
But what's for you then the difference between I'll just go out on stage and say something, or I just go back and cut some grapes?
That's a good. It's a deep question. Maybe the social pressure. If you're up on a stage, that people are looking at you, and you want to do good, you want to perform well. You don't want to make mistakes. You don't want to say something wrong. You don't want to forget to say something. I have made that kind of failures in the past, and I think maybe also because so many eyes are pointed at you. That's what I don't really like. Okay, and that are also the moments that I'm mostly scared of failure.
And were you also like looked at when you cut yourself at the grape farm, or were you looked at when you were working there?
Well, it was funny. One of the other workers there showed me his hand, which was really full with cut marks. But no, not in a way that you think, like, okay, well, they really find me stupid now. That's just like, I obviously sometimes tell it in the story. They must have thought, like, what's this Dutch guy coming to do here, cutting his hand in the first 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Because it's a funny fact, I guess. It was also a horrific sight with my white shirt being all covered with blood and mud. But no, there was nobody there judging me at all. But I also think that in the South African culture, it's slightly different than Dutch culture.
Okay.
It's much more authoritarian than it is in the Netherlands, I think.
Okay. So made that also a difference then for you?
As in how they responded to me cutting my hands?
Because I guess you seem to be a more authoritarian person because of your color.
Of my color, of my clothing, of
Yeah.
my phone, of anything, basically. But to me, no, personally, no, not at all. I don't see a difference there. And I feel injustice if I look at what they earn for the work they do.
Yeah.
And also, like, we're here in a really nice office. I can I sometimes also say, like the fact that they had to work per crate and basically work a whole day to fill up 50 crates, and I can work here a whole day, and I can for example, talk 10 minutes at the coffee machine while still being paid.
Yeah.
It's unthinkable for them. And in that regard, I find myself very privileged. And there is some injustice in that, I think.
Did that, like, almost like realization or this experience of being privileged do something with how you act now or with how you see things now?
Yeah, I can't say no, it didn't. No, of course, yes, it did. But if you would ask me for specific examples, I couldn't give you any directly, or I have to think a bit longer about it. But at least knowing this is already, and also feeling more privileged, makes you also more grateful for what you have, I guess.
Yeah. An experience that I, for example, had in the Philippines, I guess similar to that, when I was seeing people on the rocky beaches collecting those stones and putting them into bags, and just selling those bags and doing this 7 days a week, just sitting there in the sun and sorting stones, and obviously making then just nothing in real money what we see here because of their currency also.
Yeah. On the other hand, I don't want to feel pity for them in a way, because they don't ask for it, and they might also live a very happy life. It's our Western ideal sometimes to judge these people on, okay, you are poor and you are having a stupid life, while they maybe even be more happy than we are with our capitalistic ideals.
So what I was actually wanting to say was, like, this just opened completely my perspective. In, like, people are doing those kind of jobs and I'm doing this, whatever it is, and like so many different things and perspectives then almost collide, because like I grew up with this complete Western perspective, and kind of you go to school, university, and have then this, I don't know, a couple of thousand euros per month pay job, and you live then until whatever age, and this is just not the reality in most parts of the world. And just this perspective helped me at least to also open and broaden my perspective, and like, okay, I can do a lot of different other things too. This way is not the only real way. And that is, I think, a real big gift I got through traveling.
Oh, definitely. And now I even find myself sometimes having difficulty with empathizing people who haven't traveled.
I have the same, actually, That is sometimes really when you, or I experience sometimes when I just tell those stories of like, that happened there and there, and like some other people also see you as, oh wow, you're this person having experienced all this. So just by having done different things, it creates almost this distance when you tell those stories.
And sometimes I know this is stupid, but your base expectation is that other people that you speak to has also had similar sort of experiences.
Yeah. And that's, well, at least I feel very rarely the case. Of course, like you and your kind of small bubble and a lot of people and friends have done similar experience, I feel. Because you like those people, because they have similar mindsets, similar perspectives.
Yeah, true.
So feel connected to them. But that's just like a small portion of what people actually think and what the general mindset is.
Well, like, if you think you're not in a bubble, then you're probably not right. Most of us are all in a bubble, thinking of how the world works.
I mean, the bubble is, I guess, often used in like just like social media or people that are close to you, that you have like similar content running continuously through your mind. But it's like, it starts already like way earlier, like where you just grew up, which media are you consuming.
And it's like, oh, this is nice, because I totally get what you're saying. As a young person, you grow up with your parents, and in a society or in how we all define how you should live your life, basically, and you don't have a consciousness yet. And when I was 19 years old, like I told before, when I was in South Africa for the first time, all ties were basically cut with my social life in the Netherlands. And then there was I cherished this opportunity till the end of my days, I guess. That was a real opportunity to discover yourself and who you want to be, actually. Yeah.
That's, for me, through traveling, the best gift I could have gotten. Like really, okay, cut everything that has been before and see what you actually want.
Yeah, what are you going to do then? Yeah.
And that's actually a super difficult question to answer, because it takes a lot of thinking and really mind works, and what do I want, and what is like project or put into me that other people want me to do or want from me.
And if you can answer that, you come out with it with a lot of like, you have the capacity to individually take initiative from that moment on, whatever you're going to do. I'm currently thinking about going to work remote more in Europe, in which I would also likely need a lot of individual, like, initiate a lot of things to get, or speak to people, meet people, whatsoever, like you did perhaps also when you came to the Netherlands. And I imagine that is also really difficult, but really interesting also.
Yeah, like what you just mentioned, a great example, when I got here now to Groningen, I kind of knew, okay, I know the podcast thing is, for example, something I really, really enjoy. Just like having those deep conversations about topics completely different. It's just sometimes is something I get energy out of and just enjoy doing. So that's why when I now got to Groningen, I was like, okay, how can I continue this? Because that's something I personally truly love to do. Yeah. And then I take initiative and like spoke to different people in this area, just like started Googling what are people like maybe interested in the same field.
And there's many people who want to talk to you about anything, basically. Whatever you're interested in, there's always somebody who's also interested in it.
Just imagining yourself, do you like to talk to the same people in the same field? It's most of the time yes, and so the others would probably do too. So that's I feel like an easy way to really connect yourself in a city, but also just get an easy entrance into the things you will like to do. Yeah, and so that's something I really got out of like traveling, and because as you said, it's like cut off everything, every connection, and then you start to think, okay, I don't have anything to do now for the next 3 months. What am I going to do? Yeah. And that's a great question to start with.
Yes. Yeah, I think so too. It's an interesting point to be at. Yeah.
And you had this, what was it, when you were 19? Did you have this
I was
question?
19 and it was in 2019.
And you did have that question in your head, and how did you?
Not at all. I was like, this was all coincidence.
Okay.
This was all, and it's. I used to study in Zwolle, and I took the train every day from Groningen to Zwolle. And one day there was this magazine in the coupé. It was called the Intermediaire, and it's not a magazine that's usually there. Somebody probably left it, and I already before this happened, I already applied for an internship at a South African company that was owned by a Dutch lady. She had posted a vacancy on the website for Dutch designers, and I just responded to it without actually knowing anything about South Africa. I was just interested to see what kind of reaction I would get in return. I didn't I wasn't really even motivated to get the job. I just wanted to experiment and explore a bit what kind of response I would get. Didn't discuss it with my parents because my mom obviously didn't really like it that I wanted to go to South Africa, because all she knows about South Africa is from the news as well. And South Africa had huge history with apartheid and crime whatsoever. Anyway, then the second time when I was in that train coupé, I opened up that magazine, and I opened it halfway, and there was a full spread page about internships again, about in South Africa. So I thought, well, maybe this is something like it's coming back to my path again for the second time now. And I'm definitely not a very spiritual kind of person that believes in faith or anything like that. But at that time I thought, well, maybe I really need to do something with it. So then I wrote, because this was a company called For Exchange, and they basically mitigate internships in South Africa. So I wrote to them. I said, well, this is what I can do, and I'm looking for this, and can you perhaps help me? And so then the ball started rolling. I still didn't know anything about South Africa. I thought I would, I stayed in Cape Town, and I thought, well, this place is probably they don't have streets. They don't have, they've all got mud houses made of straw and mud. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Cape Town is really European-like city, actually. But it was quite interesting to basically discover a total new world where your curiosity is also, we talked about it before, is being sparked. Yeah.
And so you kind of took that from those two incidences where there was the internship, but is that something you now look more often into, something you see more, that you get triggered by those incidences a bit more, that you think, oh, I've seen that now 2 times, maybe I should act on it?
I try to be a bit more conscious about the things that I do, because most of the decisions I've made in my life were just opportunities that I took. And they came on my path, and I just take them. Opportunities, some people need, for me, myself as well, I had twice the opportunity and then I took it. And some people don't take it, but I usually take the opportunities. And I want to be a bit more conscious now about the decisions that I make, instead of, leading my life through coincidence. Basically, I want to be a bit more in control as far as I can.
May I ask the question why? Because it worked before until now.
And it is a nice way also. Why? Because I don't know. That's also I don't know, because I feel that I want to get the most out of it. I want to get the most out of it, and I although I got a lot out of the serendipity of all the chances and opportunities that I had in the past, I feel that now is also a natural time for me to be more conscious about it, and steer more to what the outcome is going to be or where it's going to be. although I still like to be surprised. So, yeah, it's it's a tricky question. I wouldn't say that the one if it happens to me that I would recline it. No, I don't think I would. But if there's a nice opportunity, or maybe like I'm thinking about this now, and maybe there's also sometimes in my life before there was a trigger that made it happen. And for example, recently there was also a really nice opportunity that I saw that also really fitted with my purpose and with my goals and my personal development. But I don't necessarily have a trigger to act upon it yet.
Okay.
Maybe there's another opportunity coming by in the near future when I do have the incentive to do so, but at the moment I haven't. Yeah. So in a way, yeah, both can be all right.
And you're now tending just to the other one.
Yeah, I guess so. And I'm not sure why, as you notice. I'm not sure why.
No, I recently also talked to another guy from India, and he works now in a big pharmacy company in Germany, and he, for example, like had a similar approach, like you just said. He started out in India with just like being super curious, exploring everything, and just whenever there was an opportunity, he just like jumped into and tried and did his best and enjoyed the time. And now he's going also into the part of like, now I need to secure everything where I am, like need to secure this job, need to secure those parts and how far I've gotten.
Did he get a wife or get a partner and children?
Yeah.
All right.
But then he also like reflected on that, and it's kind of funny when you think in different terms about it. The way that got you to that point that you are right now, why should you stop that? Because it brought you up there, and then switching into another one might be
perhaps. Although it's never a bad thing to try different approaches, I guess. But maybe because I went twice to South Africa, and first time 3 times by now. First time in 2008 till 2009. Second time was during the World Cup in 2010, and I went there also with sort of a similar sort of experience. And obviously, experience is different. So if you keep on doing things the same way, you can't expect the same outcome. So I'm happy with exploring. If I would take my matters a bit more into own hands and steer a bit, like I have dreams, ambitions, and I can make them happen. But if I leave that up for coincidence, then it just happens to me.
Yeah.
Or not. I really don't know what is a better approach. I really don't know, because both have their ups and downs, I guess.
I really think that's just super important. What like just your personal experience with that, because like most of the time or at least I look super outward to like, okay, where did this person, which approach did they use? What techniques have they used in those areas in their lives? And just then like try to copycat almost like what they've done.
Yeah, it doesn't work, I guess.
Exactly. That's kind of what I figure most of the time. That's like, okay, I kind of can try that, but he's a completely different person than I am. So why should I then take that approach? Of course, like it seems a bit easier in the beginning when you just like take on what another person has done before already. But it is most often the wrong way for you, because you are completely different.
Yeah.
And what I now figure, like the way inward and really, okay, if this question occurs to you now, like, okay, which might be the better approach for you, is then, okay, what, maybe like I would do it now in a meditation or something, what answer comes to your mind? in a way to really go deep into yourself, just like being super calm and then asking this question without really expecting or thinking in a direction, but just really feeling what feels the right way.
Intuition, it's basically intuition.
Basically, yeah.
And I think that intuition comes from experience.
Mm-hmm.
And the more experience, the better your intuition becomes also. Can you explain the question a bit more clear to me? Because I don't really understand what you're looking for.
Oh, I didn't ask you for a question. I didn't ask a question yet. It was just like that I see the approach of really figuring something out for yourself, even though it might be harder and maybe also takes longer to find something within yourself. So really look deep into rather than outward. And that's just like kind of in the direction I go, or I've found a way like recently that this might be a better approach for myself.
Yeah.
So
I get
then the kind of question is, have you, or like which approach do you use? Do you look at other people, how they might do it and try to see what you can take on? Or is it more like, okay, I'm trying to figure it out for myself and just maybe, I don't know, take a weekend off and figure it out?
I'm really stubborn, and I've always figured it out by myself. Yeah, and that also works the best for me. And obviously, there's in English, like in Dutch, there are two words. You have eigenwijs and you have koppig. And it doesn't translate into English really well. Or maybe you could say headstrong and stubborn. I'm more headstrong than stubborn.
Okay.
Because I do listen to my surroundings, my environment, to the opinions people have, to the experience people have. But I most of the time make my own decision based on all the reference that I have. And often I just do. But I think a lot about it first.
Okay. Before you ask like other opinions or perspectives.
Yeah, and I analyze a lot in my mind. Basically all scenarios has gone through my mind before. And sometimes you can't find an answer. Like in relationships, for example, or when you're in love with somebody, if you are in this scary moment of saying to someone, okay, I love you, or I find you attractive and I want to have a relationship with you. Like if you go through Tinder, that's nice because everybody knows already that that's the intention. But if that's not the case, then it's a lot more difficult to come up with this. And then you can try and run through all the scenarios in your mind, but you can't get an answer because you don't know what the other person is gonna say.
Yeah.
If that other okay, you might have catched some hints, but like sometimes it's really confusing. So you don't know. And then you just have to let go that you don't that you can't anticipate already what's going to happen, and you just have to see and see for yourself if you're going to make that decision or not, or find it acceptable that the risk of whatever the risk may be, this is just an example, the risk of being rejected is high enough for you to admit that you are in love.
Yeah. Nice that you started talking about now, okay, what it might be if you get rejected or a failure of approaching this person. Because before we also talked about your loved quote from Thomas Edison.
Yeah.
And we had a small chat about really just fear failure, how you approach things. And that I also found very interesting how you looked at that, how you look at working on projects, working inside this company, how you approach when other people make mistakes or something like that.
I think mistakes are necessary to succeed, basically.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. If you don't make mistakes, how are you ever going to make success? Because without mistakes, you can't succeed. At least that's how I look at it. And I think that in an organization like, for example, Startup Weekend, what I really emphasize on is creating that safe environment in which it is safe to make mistakes, and in which the world doesn't explode if you have made a mistake. And I think that is really important.
Okay.
And the quote, maybe you need to mention it also. Yeah. The quote I really love is, "I have not failed. I have just worked out 10,000 ways that don't work." Yeah, and I really love that, because it's a bit of switching around and turning it into an opportunity again. Instead of thinking, okay, well, this is the end of the world. Now everything's over. Yeah.
And have you, now it's also very interesting, because have you had this, obviously you didn't have this quote always, but this way of thinking on how you approach mistakes or failure, has this always been there, or did you get it actively?
No, maybe. Well, like I said before, I'm really, really headstrong, and I wasn't a really good student, and that is also partly due to my stubbornness. Because I knew for myself what I wanted to do, and I knew what I wanted to learn and what I didn't want to learn. So don't tell me that I need to learn French or need to learn biology. Eventually, I learned a lot. So a lot of stuff sticked, but.
So you're one of the kids the teachers hated because you always asked questions or didn't want to do things they just told.
Yeah, and vice versa, by the way.
Okay.
That's correct. Sort of. Not all teachers. There were actually there were some teachers in my life that really understood much more how how my mind worked and how I perceived the world and how to deal with me also. And they have really managed to inspire me also by taking me serious and also taking the time for a conversation instead of, okay, you're just one of the other students and you haven't made your homework, retention. Yeah. Go clean the square. Yeah.
And so you said it probably comes through your
stubbornness, because you were asking again. Can you remind me real quick?
Yeah, where this is coming from? Did you get it actively, or did it just develop?
My idea of failure. Yeah. I failed a lot, and you have to find a way to accept that.
So we're always trying things, and then you figure something. Okay, it's wrong, or is it you failed at doing things. But you need to have the curiosity.
And you learn also that that all those failures, if you have failed a few times, eventually you learn. You step back right up, and nothing changed. You just continue, and that's maybe more where I got the mindset from. That it's not bad to fail. I have also seen that people. Basically become paralyzed by failure. And I always think, and that's also maybe something that was brought to me or given to me through my parents. Okay, it's not bad, it's okay, don't worry, just continue, try it again, and yeah.
And maybe in connection to that, you also mentioned the way how you perceive leadership as giving responsibility to other people. So basically, I just presume now that everybody takes for themselves the responsibility of going forward, of making mistakes, of dealing with that. So they that every person for themselves has the responsibility to do mistakes, to fail, but also to get back up again.
Yeah, but in practice, what you see is that. That's that's my vision also. But in practice, there are still people who feel managers feel a need to say, okay, you failed, and how are we going to fix this, and really be upset about it or make it a huge issue that there's failure. So people there's no safe environment to feel to make failures. Let's put it down to that. Do you think that these people that fail do not wonder with themselves, or feel bad about the failure themselves already? Do they really need somebody to pinpoint out further that they have made a failure, or whatsoever. I don't think that is necessary. Obviously, you discuss accountabilities. Okay, your accountability is, I don't know, you have to make sure that on a Friday Eve presentation can go on, location, technique needs to be working all along. In the edition last year, for example, we had to stick up a laptop to the roof of this building to do the presentations because there was no HDMI cable. Well, that's a failure, but that's okay. We've learned from that, and the next year it wasn't made again. And we also made an adjustment to our governance. And now we laughed about it, obviously, because it worked, but it was a bit tricky. And now we made a funny joke in our governance, basically saying, like, okay, make sure that there's no laptops stick to the roof or whatsoever.
Yeah.
That kind of accountability has been added. But we make it really explicit what is the purpose of the role that you fulfill and what are the accountabilities that come with it. And we trust people with buying houses. We trust people with arranging their holidays. Why wouldn't we trust them in executing a role within an organization? Yeah.
Pretty simple said, but I think it's super powerful that you give people so much responsibility.
And they pay it back. They totally pay it back.
Yeah, I guess that will be the next question. Like, okay, do you think then really that has made a significant difference in how you interact with them? I guess you also said that the hierarchies are a bit lower since you're not an authoritarian leader in a way. How is that for you then?
For me, it's a bless because let me tell you about the organization that I entered when I joined the Startup Weekend team.
Yeah,
this team had leaders in the past that were more hierarchical leaders. They basically explained to everyone, this is what is being expected from you, and not really explicit, but okay, this is what you need to do. We need to organize an event that's awesome. Go do it, basically. Okay, but what is awesome then? What kind of accountabilities come with it? They never made that very explicit. In the meantime, lots of things that couldn't be checked also, like because it wasn't explicit. So have we sold enough tickets? Have we? Well, maybe that's not the best example because it's really evident, but. Have we arranged an after party or other small details? In the end, you get to much smaller details. You don't know because you can't ask because there's nobody being explicit responsible. Maybe you all assume that somebody has arranged it, basically, which is often not the case. And in the end, it comes down to, okay, all the workload that needs to be done goes back to the leader. And those kind of leaders get overwhelmed with the amount of stuff they do, the quality of an event, or like in case of an organization, the quality of the work an organization does is suffering. And as a leader, you can't be doing all the accountabilities in the organization. I have a really nice analogy. That I sometimes use is a coxed four. So
what?
A coxed four, that's a rowing boat in rowing. And there's 4 rowers and there's one coxman. The coxman is basically the steerman giving the commands like, okay, and all the coxman does is being responsible for the safety of the crew in the boat, giving instructions about where the other boats are in the water and basically motivating the team. And the team is rowing. But once that coxman or coxwoman, I don't know if there's both ways, but starts to do the rowing, he can't have the oversight of what's going on anymore. So everything's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
I really like that analogy. And that's difficult. Analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that, and I guess that's also something that you do for yourself too? Like you for yourself take the responsibility of your own like journey in the way you take on figuring out your purpose, what you do there, like all those kind of things. I guess that's where it started, isn't it?
Well, it was obviously not from right beginning. It was also obviously a learning path. But some people also compliment me for my role or that I'm working really hard. But I don't think that a leader or look at my role and think, oh, that's a tough role. But in reality, by now, with the way we've set up the governance, it's just making sure that everyone stays accountable. It's just making sure that we're on track. And that's about it. You don't have to, like, if things go well, you don't have to do anything at all.
Yeah.
In that role, at least. Like, I also do some other roles like finance and whatsoever. But in my role as lead, I don't necessarily have to do a lot of work or work really hard. I just have to maintain an overview of what's going on. And therefore, we have set up governance with tactical meetings and checklists and metrics that are being updated by the person accountable for it. So I just get updates from the team, just like anyone else in the team. Not that I'm being updated specifically, but anyone in the team is being updated. So,
And you also a couple of times mentioned now, that the person always has to have like their purpose in place, knows what they're about to do. I guess you also mentioned that you figured out your way of doing things, your goals, your purpose. What would you say is now the direction you are going towards? What's your thrive? What's your purpose right now?
That's a difficult one because I'm at sort of a crossroads. Like I decided it's time for me to stop fulfilling a role as lead organizer because I think that if I would do another year of organizing, then people are gonna see me as the leader to go to, and I don't want to fulfill that kind of role. I think I believe in distributed leadership. And I believe also that anyone should fulfill that role, at least if you've organized it correctly. I'm now contemplating, because I do find it really important to create opportunities. I feel, like I said before, very privileged to have the opportunities that I have. And I also am sort of concerned about if future generations still have the same amount of opportunities as I have had. Like I grew up in the time that internet became really big. A lot of opportunities opened up to become from a little kwartje to from 10 cent to 25 kwartje. It's a Dutch word, which I'm not also even like
trying to translate.
I'm trying to recite, but it's not going really well. But it doesn't matter. Dutch people understand. But I think that was like many people had the opportunity to grow into different. How you say from a blue worker to a white worker? I don't know these levels actually with these colors, but.
And now in do you expect then the opportunities to go or to diminish or
well in a way, like we've got huge monopolization of the world basically, and huge companies also basically owning so much that it's for innovate and also innovation. It's not endless. Like if over the last 100 years, we've discovered oil, managed to make plastics. Look what an impact that had on how our lives are now. These are all great innovations that made so many more opportunities possible, business-wise, but anyway, made a lot of possibilities at least. And well, the opportunity of us discovering this kind of stuff again from it's reducing, I think. It's not becoming bigger.
And where do you see your part in the near future and when it's simulated or in any part?
To give the answer I see to give an answer on the globalization and on power of huge companies is to collaborate. Small players can only compete with the big players if they collaborate, because then I think they can even become stronger than the big players. And that's also why I think it's so important to be altruistic, because that's a really good base for collaboration, and for also, like, I don't know, there's I don't know if this translates into English, but in the Netherlands there's a gun factor, like I really would like you to have that, or it would be a blessing if you would have that. I don't know how you would translate it.
I don't know either. So.
I'm really curious now, actually. Let me just really Google it real quick.
Sure.
I think I've Googled this before, actually. Yeah, you would think it's a gun factor, but it's not a... you see, it doesn't even translate.
It translates as gun factor.
Yeah, which is totally not. Yeah, award they say, but it's not really. It doesn't really cover the meaning of the word.
So you want to give to the other person. You want to let the other person.
Well, not that you are giving it yourself, but if it were to be given to you, that would be awesome. Okay. That's more about it, I guess.
And also another thing about the altruism I recently heard was, he was saying that there is no like true altruism, but rather that we are in a way all selfish, and that even when you connected in part to, even when I give you something, I want to make you feel good, I also want to make me feel good.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's funny. But it's a bit playing with words, I guess, or playing with semantics.
The concepts. Yeah.
But it's true. Like, I get a good feeling from helping somebody else, but that doesn't make it any different.
Yeah.
Or less good. Let's say it so.
Yeah. So there's like even like, because it's I guess it's not a limited resource in this sense, right? When you give somebody else a good feeling, just because the other person has it, you also get it. Like, that's not I guess it's not taking from the other perspective and just adding something onto you. And I guess that's...
Yeah, but is that a condition to be altruistic? Or to be truly altruistic, I mean? I don't know. I don't think it is.
I guess like how I have it in mind is like that you don't expect anything in return.
Yeah, but altruism is you basically translate altruism to selfless, being selfless. I don't think that's the case necessary for altruism.
Okay, that's interesting.
It's and not that it is selfish altruism, but it's beneficial to both, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's without expectations.
Oh, okay, that's a huge part then. Yeah. Like, you don't, even though you might get something, but it's like you kind of don't expect. Can you? Is that practical? Can you do that?
That's how I see it. Yeah.
Because that seems
like, if I give you a glass of a glass of tea or a beer, I don't expect you to return me with a beer next time I see you or whatsoever. Right?
Yeah, because like it's just sometimes like when maybe something else
would be nice if you
then just like a beer or a tea, because I guess that's almost like in the culture that you do that. But if there's something else that you, I don't know, write a code for somebody, and just because they asked you to,
Well, if we have if I know your values a bit more, or I would like, if I know your values, then, and they match also my values, and we are having a good time, then why wouldn't I write a little piece of code if that would help you? And I have the capacity to help you, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, next time, I don't expect it, but maybe you are a great designer, and next time I need a design, and you create something for me again. Okay. But it's not to be expected as a thing that is being offered in return. It's not as transactional as it looks like, although it still is. There's this, some people call it emotional bank.
Yeah. The karma, or
no, well, I'm not sure if it's karma, but emotional bank. Like you can, like for example, we're friends, and we have spent some nights drinking beers in the city or whatsoever, or something else. Went bowling or whatever you do for fun. That creates a bank account, emotional bank account. Mm-hmm. But then next time we meet, you basically don't show up. That reduces the bank account. You can only do that several amount of times. And after you've done that, like more times than adding up your bank account again, then eventually that friendship is over and that relationship is over, and you don't have to expect any altruism from me again. Because I think, well, you don't match my values. I find it important that you show up if you had a meeting. So there's so many things also involved in altruism, perhaps. But my principle is, at least with everyone that I meet, to have a positive bank account from the start. Not to think, okay, well, you haven't done anything for me yet, so I don't grant you time to speak with me or whatsoever.
Because that is, I feel, often the case. I mean, especially if a person is high in some leadership role, it's like, you need to give me something in order for me to talk to you or something.
Yeah, and I can understand also, because you're being approached by so many people who want some of your time, and time is something of it's the most precious thing we have, perhaps. So yeah, I can understand that some people are really specific about where they spend their time and not. Yeah, I do that too, I guess, yeah.
Then I appreciate a lot that you gave me so much time.
Yeah, and then it's also the question why, perhaps. Maybe because you have a sincere interest in learning, and you're a sincere person with sincere interest. I also once spoke with a journalist, and well, it was his job, and you could notice that it was his job to ask questions to people. And if he would call me again, I wouldn't say, okay, well, I have time for you whatsoever. Yeah, I have other people that I get more energy from myself. Unless I want something published, yeah. But then it's not altruistic anymore.
Yeah, then it's transactional. In the end, now, do you want to share something else that's like really important to you that you would like other people to leave with in this podcast episode? Something that they should keep in mind?
I think we've already talked a lot about really interesting stuff. I don't have answers to everything, perhaps. But what I do think is really important is to always, like a little piece of advice perhaps, to always be curious. This is maybe also a bit wrapping up the conversation with a conclusion of what we've been talking about. Basically, always be curious. Also about new people. Give them a chance and go meet them, even if your time is scarce. A cup of coffee doesn't take long, and if it's not interesting, you can always already cut off the conversation in a political, nice way.
Yeah.
And if you see that there is interest or there is a spark or there's something that interests you and keeps you curious, then why not? And other than that, I would say always work together with people. Don't know where it ever will lead to. And I think that if you would do it that way, it will always provide you value in the long run rather than in short term. And believe in yourself. Think you can do anything, and anything that you can't, you can still learn. That's what I wanted to wrap up with.
That is perfect. Amazing. I love that. Thank you so much for all the time you've given so far, and that you actually really went super into depth and was thinking about difficult things for yourself, like being that open to like, I don't know those things yet about myself, and I'm still figuring out. And this is super,
definitely.
At least for me, super interesting to see and helpful to get this connection. Okay, other people are struggling a lot with similar topics too, and we're kind of all just figuring everything out in our own realities.
And that will continue to be so, I think. And I'm afraid of it also, but that's okay. Yeah.
You're afraid of what exactly?
Well, I'm not really afraid, but I'm afraid that it will continue to be like that. So you always have to deal with it. You're changing as a person throughout your whole life, and it will always be. Some things will always remain a challenge, and not like it would also. Wouldn't it also be very boring if you would have all the answers?
Yes.
I think it would, and I don't think you will ever get all the answers.
If not, you probably create new problems for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I hope so.
And so if like anyone wants to know after the conversation, also get in contact with you or ask you more questions, where can they find you or reach you?
Well, maybe via you or via my Twitter. I have a Twitter account. It's my full name, but then without all the A and the...
I just put it in the show notes and people can...
Please, see it in the video there. Yeah.
Every time I talk to Luuk, afterwards I also want to give just generously to others and want to provide something. He really has a really cool aura that is nice to be around. And if you also have any questions or would like to reach out to them, again, look in the show notes. And I'm glad that you joined this podcast and hope you get something out of it. See you next time. One last thing. If you like this episode and want to hear more stories from inspiring and ambitious people, subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend who might enjoy it too. Namastè.